Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Famula One. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my sister, Jack.
Hi, everybody.
And we have a special guest this week. Welcome, Nina.
Hello.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, so this week we are joined by my wonderful friend, Nina. We have watched a F1 race together. We watched Vegas together. But she's new to the Formula One space. I keep wanting to say Famula because that's
Also the
how
Famula.
Oh
my God.
Famula. And so this is Nina came up with this. She is inserting herself into the podcast. She's becoming the third host.
I'm a visionary.
So, visionary for sure. We are going to be doing essentially no dumb questions. The Kelsey brothers, Jason and Travis, they do this on their podcast, and people can just come to them and ask questions about football. I think also about their lives. Probably not, but I think it's just about football. And so we're just going to run through some questions that new people might have that, people don't go into necessarily on their podcast, or Drive to Survive doesn't go into, unless it's Will Buxton using a weird euphemism, but that's about it.
Yeah, and to caveat this before we get started, we're doing this for fun. Jack and I are not claiming to be experts by any means, but we're doing this, to give people a little bit more context as we head into this next season. If you have these questions, then hopefully we can help you answer them. And yeah, this is fun. This is all for fun.
This is for fun.
And we're all going to have fun.
You're forced to have fun.
So Nina, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Yeah.
Okay. And my own caveat is that I truly mean no offense if any of these questions, they're so deeply rooted in just pure naivety. Is that a word?
Naivete?
Perhaps.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Ignorance, maybe. I'll go that route. These questions are based in pure ignorance, and they're gonna sound offensive to probably anybody who cares about this sport, but I genuinely mean it. Sorry, my cat's attacking me. Ow! Stop! Seriously, this is not the time. Okay, first question, and I mean this again in the least offensive way possible. How is this a sport? Because, hear me out, growing up, there's so many debates, like, is cheerleading a sport? Is dancing a sport? Like, yeah, like the physicality that's required in those sports, like, it's an easy yes for me. How is this a sport? Please answer.
Yeah, no, it's a valid question because you watch it and it's just driving. Oh, hello, kitty.
Hi, honey.
Just keep going.
No, it's a valid question, right? And we have a fourth guest now. So exciting. But because you watch it and it's just driving. And really the physicality comes into it with the speeds that they're driving at and the G forces associated. So they're turning around corners, and even in Formula One, those Formula One cars do have power steering. Other series don't. So that's another way where that becomes more physical. So, but Formula One specifically, they're going around these corners and the G forces are like crazy. Jack, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're like 10 to 15 Gs around some corners. So it's like muscling through that and keeping yourself straight up and down in the car. You have to be really strong to be able to do that. With not power steering, so that's like IndyCar, the lower like F2, F3, and I believe NASCAR also doesn't have power steering. So that means like you have to like literally muscle the car through the turns. I don't know, Jack, am I missing anything there?
I think just the physicality of it 100%. I think also like the mental strength that it takes to be in this car going those speeds is insane. And as an athlete, you need to have incredible mental strength. And you need to be able to like go into these things over and over and over again. And they do. And it's such an adrenaline sport that I also think that it's like a little bit, in my mind, it's like a little bit higher up in like the sport hierarchy, if there is one, because it is so dangerous. Yeah, because I think there's just so much to think about. It's kind of like you're playing chess, but you're moving at 150, 180 miles an hour.
Do people die playing this sport? Is it called
Yeah.
playing? Participating in this sport? You don't play F1, I don't think.
Driving, but yeah,
Luckily-
participating's a good one.
Luckily, not super often anymore. It used to be very, very common, but safety has improved a lot. But yes.
Well, that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
So do they have to like? How do you practice? Like, how do you warm up? Like, what's your
Yeah.
physical preparation?
That's like a
Like
really
getting
good
a
question.
spaceship, or like
Just-
how do you prepare for that kind of
Yeah.
sport?
It's such a good question because you can't just get the cars are so expensive to make, to repair, to do anything. So you can't just like have them keep going out in the car. And so a lot of them will be training, do drive. I'll call it drive training. Don't know if that's the correct term, but it's drive training in what they call a sim. So it'll be just like this big simulator, and it'll have a screen, and you can just practice the tracks, practice the turns, and it will have the same. Like Jamie and I both did one in New York City, and it'll have the same kind of like jolts. It'll sell the same. They can adjust it.
Yeah.
We were just
Well, theirs
are
are
also
also
that
like,
was easy, but it has like the same physical toll that it would to drive the car on the track. They also have different exercises that they do a lot for their neck, because that is what takes a lot of the like. That's the one thing that's like really not protected. You can see if you watch an F1 driver take people out in like kind of an F1 type car, you'll see that they're pretty perfectly. They're not really moving, but if you see somebody else, they're like their neck is just moving everywhere. So they have a lot of strength in their neck. They do a lot of core strength. So there's this, I don't even know what it's called, but it's this thing where it will just, they just turn it essentially with their core.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And-
I've seen that.
And that's just like all core strength, them trying to like essentially drive through what the G forces would be like. I don't know if you want to add anything else, James, or explain things better.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of neck. There's a lot of like
Yeah.
clips of there's
a lot
a
of
clip
neck.
of
A lot of neck.
huge neck. Like
That's
there's
like their thing is just huge necks.
yeah, there's a clip of George
That's
Russell,
horrifying.
one of the drivers. He like hung, I think it was like 30 kilos or maybe even more from his neck. Like he was just like laying down and they hung it from his neck, and he just like was able to keep his head up straight. A lot of muscle building there. And then on the sim stuff, so each team will have, it's like a multi-million-dollar simulator that basically it's like they're driving that specific car, and they like can even adjust the settings in the car based on the simulator. So they can go around different tracks, and that's how they learn new tracks too, like within
So
the
are they
simulator.
practicing tracks like virtually before they're actually? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, isn't that
So
wild?
they already know, they're like not going in blind every race. They're like they've prepared for that specific race before physically doing it.
Yeah. So, obviously, and there's like, the in-person stuff that they still have to adjust to, but in terms of like where the turns are and how, long straights are and things like that, they'll practice all of that on the sim.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. How are you strategizing? Like, I don't even really understand how you win a race, but like, what's the strategy other than just like drive the car? Like the most simple comparison in my very tiny little stupid brain is Mario Kart. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but like the strategy is just don't come in last. So like, what are we strategizing here? What's happening?
It's very similar. Don't come in last.
Yeah. So a lot of that is it's kind of like everything. So the biggest one that they talk about during races, I feel like the one that we hear about the most is pit stops. So when to take a pit stop based on where you are. So like how far behind is the person behind you, and how far ahead is the person ahead of you, and what is their pit stop strategy. So have they already taken a pit stop and they have brand new tires, so you should stop now, or have they not stopped yet? Also, when you do stop, what kind of tire are you putting on? Are you putting on, based on the track, it could be different tires are going to be better fit for different things, and different tires will last longer, which will affect your pit stop strategy. Also, they have, the engines have, like, I would assume probably hundreds, but tons of different modes that they can be in. So some are going to be, they're trying to catch the person in front. So the strategist will be in the radio being like, this X person is 1.5 seconds ahead. Engine mode this, meaning we're going to use more energy from the engine and push harder at this stage to try to catch that person. Or we're going to go into energy saving mode because you're in a good spot right now. We don't think you can move up. And probably lots and lots of other things, but it's all like scientific. So they have everything down to a science of, they track where everybody else is. They track what everybody else is doing for their strategies to then inform the strategies that they tell their driver they're going to be doing.
Are there like archetypes of strategies? Like certain teams typically employ strategy A where other teams employ strategy B? Like there's groupings of different types of like strategies that different teams use, or is it like very, very niche to every single team? They have their own specific catered strategy to their car and their drivers. Yeah,
I think it's more the second one. Beyond the fact that like the running joke is that Ferrari has just terrible strategy. But a lot of it will be catered to like that driver, that car, where, how did their qualifying session go the day before? Is this this track specifically a good fit for this car? Based on how the car is built and how it runs, different tracks will be better for different cars, which will affect the strategy.
Interesting. And what happens at a pit stop?
Oh, so much.
in the race that I saw, that's where like everything went wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, do pit stops ever not go terribly wrong? And like,
they do. I can say, as a person who's a fan of a world record holder,
oh gosh,
that they do go correctly. But I think that like pit stops, so they'll change the tires. If the car is damaged itself, they can change pieces of the car. Not always. Like the front wing, so a piece that goes out like a T, they can take that completely off and change it out. And then I don't think they can really, I'm trying to think of what else they could change on a pit stop. They don't, in Formula One, they don't refuel on pit stops. There are other races that they would, but Formula One doesn't do that. The big thing is the tires. And if all the tire, again, not using a technical term, the tire guns are working correctly, making sure they don't get stuck. That's where things will just go wrong, is if the screws aren't coming off, if somebody's gun is going, making sure it's going the correct way. Like there's just like a million different things that can just go wrong. So that's where strategy can also change, is if pit stops don't go well.
Yeah. It's also they're so fast. Like the world record, congratulations Jack, congratulations McLaren, is 1.8 seconds. So the whole pit stop, like they took the tires off, put the new tires on in 1.8 seconds. Yeah. So much has to go right for that to be done in anything close to that. Like, and there's so many people involved and so many tools. So like all it takes is one person not pulling the tire off quickly enough, and then it slows everything down. So I think a lot of the time it's just like for that to all function properly, it's going to happen less often than maybe ideally people would want.
So if someone messes up, what's like the vibes behind the scene? Are they just like, Joe, he's absolutely fired. He's like not coming back. Like if somebody messes up, are they like like you'll get a next time, buddy, or like what's on the line here? What are they? How do they feel about each other?
I feel like that depends on the team. It's
Yeah.
gotta. But they never like publicly call out. They're never like,
No.
oh yeah, well I would have won, but Joe on the front right tire ruined everything. But you can definitely tell there are times where there's like they'll get very upset. But I also like a lot of them have other roles beyond just doing the tire changing. And they're all like that team of mechanics that work together and they travel together. So I would like to think that they're like a family and that they're looking at each other. But I guess it depends how bad it is.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm hoping that it's like, have you guys ever gone to like a volleyball game? Like an indoor volleyball game or like even outdoor, like beach? Like they are all like, okay, 1 point doesn't matter. Like we're going to get the next one because there's other chances for them during that race or even throughout the season to prove that they are meant to be at that spot or even move up within that. So I think that I hope, like Jamie would say, that it's not like you're one and done, get out of here, sayonara.
They also do practice. And it's like I could never be a tire changer. Or I could never be a pit crew member. I would.
No, my hands would shake too much.
I panic so bad.
You're trying to unscrew the tire. Sorry, my cat is trying to steal my turkey sandwich, and it's just really not going great.
Honey just wants to be on the podcast.
She does, and she deserves a spot, just not on this podcast, unfortunately.
Next
Imagine
one, honey, we got
she just has a podcast. It's just her purring for an hour and a half.
I would listen to that.
A little ASMR.
Honestly, put that on YouTube.
All right, that's my next
Monetize
business
that.
idea. I'm a visionary, and that's my next vision. Okay, so my next question. This is like, again, I mean this no harm. There's not really casual watchers of F1. Like anybody I've met who watches F1 has like F1 merch. There's like a hill that they're willing to die on. They'll stay up till 3 a.m. Jacqueline. So like watch these cars circle a track in the most simplistic. What is the appeal? There's no like it's like Taylor Swift. Like there's no casual Taylor Swift fans. It's like, oh, I'd put my body on the line to see her live. So like what's the appeal? What is it about F1 that like has people so wrapped up in the story?
I feel like it's different for each person.
Yeah.
But there's like millions of you guys out there that are like crazy.
There's so many. I feel like it is different for each person. So we both got into it because of Drive to Survive, which we both still love. And
that's the Netflix documentary, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it also helps too. I can't remember who we were talking about this with, Jamie, but there's only 20 drivers in F1. There's obviously like other people on their teams that you can like learn about and learn their names and all that stuff. But you only really have to know really 20 people, unlike NFL where it's hundreds of people, or even hockey, which I feel like doesn't have that actual many, but they do have a lot of people on their team. So I feel like that is also simpler. I also love like the theatrics of F1, the drama, the people going at each other, the disputes over money. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like, I think a big thing of it is like, because it's a small league, you kind of know, it's like, it's the same 20 drivers and then their same 10 teams. So it's very easy to get into the drama and the storylines of it. And then I think that's what sucked us in.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what sucks a lot of people in. But yeah, it is crazy when you like think about it. Like, yeah, I stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch a race where I like knew before it even started who was going to win.
Just this season. We don't know. Don't put that out for next season. We don't. Maybe it'll be different.
I think it's the story of it. It's when it's a smaller group, so you can really, like this person's, everybody to a certain extent, like backstory, and like who to root for and who's currently having X fight with this person. And I think it pulls you in. It's like Real Housewives.
I was going to say,
It is a
it's
bit
giving
like
Bravo.
reality
It's
TV.
giving reality
Yeah.
TV.
Exactly.
And as you know, if you're a listener or Nina, we love Bravo. We are big Bravo fans.
Oh, yeah. Salt Lake City reunion, part 3. Can't wait.
Oh my God, it's on tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I think that's got to be. It's definitely like a magnitude of different things, and I think also like you just get adrenaline watching it.
do you?
I do.
I don't. I feel like I don't.
get anxious.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting to when we meet a fan that didn't become a fan through like Netflix, I think it would be interesting to see if they have a different perspective to it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't know if you're as invested in like the story behind people if you're not someone who's following that type of stuff, because like Drive to Survive is all, I mean, a lot of it's a little fake, but like reality TV. One day maybe we'll find someone that we can ask that to.
Yeah, we'll have to.
An OG fan before it was dramatized.
Before it was cool. Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of an off the wall question, but it came to mind while you guys were talking. Where are the women? What?
We've been asking ourselves that same question.
Yeah.
I'm hearing both of you talk about like, I don't know, your experiences and how you got hooked, and your 2 girls who are in F1, which I would say is probably, I guess, a male dominated like fandom. That's a total guess. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm like, you 2 have a podcast about it. Like, where are the other women talking about it? Where are the women in F1? Like, where did we go in this whole story?
There's so they have a totally separate, it's called F1 Academy, and big shout out. We're big fans of them. We love them. We love
They
Susie
should
Wolf,
have a show. Do they have a show?
icon. I don't know if they do.
That's a show I would watch.
That's a show I would
watch.
Yeah,
I bet they'll be featured in this in some way. I would bet they'll be at least mentioned in this upcoming season of Drive to Survive, because this past year was their first year.
Oh.
But they started getting televised at the end. But you know, they're televised and they're going to be televised next year, and that's
the goal of that series, though, is to get more women eventually into F1. So these are all younger women who eventually, ideally, will move up through the rankings of other Formula series. So like that's the F3, F2, and then at the top is F1, and F4 is below F3. The idea is to support more women through the series to eventually hopefully have a female F1 driver. In terms of the drivers, I think it's just there haven't been the opportunities, like in so many things, like there haven't been the opportunities for women that there have for men. I mean, it's so expensive to get to that point that I think it's just it hasn't been there. And in terms of women talking about the sport, there's a big online community of female Formula One and motorsport fans. There is a decent amount, I would say, Jack, correct me if you disagree, of representation in terms of broadcasters, female broadcasters.
I think it's getting back up there. You know, I'm a huge fan of Naomi Schiff. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong, so it doesn't sound like I'm a huge fan, but I am. I love her. She's a broadcaster. She's a racer. I think she's incredible. They do a lot there. I think, too, there's a lot of, like, as Jamie's saying, it is like an untapped market, though, that they're still trying to figure out. And I'd love to see more information on the women that are on the teams, because I think Red Bull's head strategist isn't that Hannah? And she's incredible. If
love
I could
that.
talk with her for even just 10 minutes, I think I would learn so much. Like, she seems so smart and so cool. They're definitely trying to still figure it out. I think it's gonna be slow, sadly.
Yeah. And I mean, this sport is like a, classically white rich man sport. So hopefully, I think there are things that are promising for us to be moving in the right direction, but there's a need for all around drivers, fans,
Principals.
principals,
Yeah.
creator recognition and things like that.
Do you think if we think this could end up on the wrong side of the internet, we don't have to keep this in, but do you think women drivers will end up competing with the male drivers, or do they always have to stay in their own league? Like, could they hold their own in?
So yeah, they'll end up eventually with the men. So F1 Academy is like the specific for women to hopefully get them more opportunities. But once they leave F1 Academy, they go into series with men. So
Fun.
yeah, so Marta Garcia is racing in, I believe, Freca this year, which is a Formula 4 series, a Formula Renault series, which is, eventually will feed her hopefully up into like a Formula One type thing. And that will be with men. Jamie Chadwick is another young up and coming female racing driver, and she is racing in Indy Next, which is basically Formula 2 for IndyCar, the American racing series. So yeah, hopefully they do well, and like the goal is basically to nurture the talent, get them in front of teams and in front of people and sponsors to hopefully get them moving up the ranks.
Yeah, because that would be a plot line that would like wrap me in. Like, I would watch that.
Yeah. No, I think so. I would like to see more. I would like to see more women like on the team specifically too. Not even just drivers. I think I would love a woman team principal. I know that Williams had one, and she was there for a while. And then I think her name is Sophie. There is a woman in
Sophia
F3.
Floresh.
Yeah.
Sophia
So
Floresh
she's in F3 in a feeder program. So it's happening. It still is just at I think anything else with inclusion at a glacial pace.
Okay, so now I'm sort of understanding some of the dynamics here. But on the track, who are they? Are they competing against their own teammates? When you're on the same team, are you like working together? Is it like a group score, or you're trying to like kick your teammate's ass? But
I don't think we need to bleep ass. I think we're good.
I think you can
ass is fair.
I think ass is they don't bleep it on Bravo, and that's what I'm going for.
Okay.
So the weird thing is it's kind of both. So your teammate is your greatest competitor because that is the only person right on the grid that has the same car as you. So that person, if you look at Max Verstappen, winner of this year's championship by a gazillion miles, like crushed everybody else, was winning every race by 30 seconds. His teammate was very far behind him. I think he finished like 300 points behind him in the championship. Yeah. So even though he finished second in the drivers' championship, still everyone's like, not a great season for him because the person you're really competing against is that person that we can all kind of look at and be like, all right, you're in the same car. So you should be performing, you should be beating your competitor. But also there's the Constructors' Championship, which is the team championship. So while you want to be beating your teammate, you also want to be doing whatever is best to gain more points in the Constructors' Championship, because that's where like millions and millions of dollars are between like P7 and P8 in the Constructors' Championship, which is like almost last. There's like $20 or $30 million in prize money between those two places.
Jeez.
Yeah.
A lot of money. But you'll hear it sometimes on radios of team strategists saying, hey, let so-and-so pass. and
Team
it'll be those team orders. So it can be there can be like a sourness between teammates sometimes, depending on how well that like person kind of knows that, oh, I'm always going to be like they call it the second driver, because they do
Ooh.
rank them kind of. Ferrari says that they don't. They definitely do.
Like the favorite child kind of thing.
Kind of like their
Like-
golden boy.
The golden
Well, it's
child.
like the one who's going to be
Yeah.
prioritized. A lot of times it's like who's doing better in the championship. And that's another, like, going back to our conversation about strategy. Like, that's like decisions that are being made on the pit wall. And then it's like, okay, you have to let your teammate by. And there have been, it's not super often, but there have been instances where the driver will just ignore them and not let the person by. And then it's big drama.
Yeah.
So that's like dealt with behind the scenes, I suppose, of like what happens.
The most famous one is this one, or not maybe the most famous one, but the one that I think of is this, it's called Multi 21. That's what they refer to it as. And it was these two drivers, and one was in front, one was behind. And the one behind, the person on the radio said this code word Multi 21, which basically meant like hold the position. Like the driver in front was number 2, driver behind was number 1. So like hold second and then first. And he ignored that and passed him and then went on to win the race. And in the cool down room, like after the race, which is where they like drink some water before they go to the podium, the driver that was supposed to be number 2, who was supposed to be like out in front and prioritized, walks up to him and goes, Multi 21. You ignored that, Multi 21. And then they had to like cut the cameras because they were like, they're fighting.
So was it like bad for their team that he still won?
But the team, I believe, still won the constructors that year. So it was like fine, but it was basically they were like, for whatever strategy reason, we're trying to prioritize Mark was the driver 2, and then Sebastian, who in our eyes can do no wrong. So it's
do
fine.
no wrong. We love him.
He was supposed to be holding that position,
Yeah.
but chose to ignore it because they were at this point still battling for the drivers' championship. So Sebastian was like, I will take that win. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So teammates might not like get along. Like they could be nemesis.
Yeah.
Are they ever like, is it ever in their best interest to work together, or is it always kind of like there has to be a favorite in order for like long-term strategy to win?
I think there are teammate relationships that like they work together. Like Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri were together for
a long time,
many years, and they always worked together. But I think for that truly to work out, one driver has to be okay with basically being driver number 2.
Yeah. Always having to like let the person pass and just kind of accepting like I'm never going to be the one that they're going to prioritize, which has got to be a hard conversation to have, because even you see it now with like Red Bull's team, which is Max and Checo, who came in first and second this year. You know, Checo's still constantly fighting with the team of why are you giving me these orders? And like, why are you telling me to go this fast when you're telling Max to go quicker?
Yeah.
So
but the good news is like, regardless of how, like, that's a pretty often like our common dynamic, at least on track. But I feel like usually the drivers, at least from what they show us, can kind of leave that on the track and still like treat each other well off track. Maybe they're not besties, but like, you know, they can chit chat with each other. Sometimes it does become very, very toxic. But usually I feel like they can still have a good relationship.
And sometimes I think too, like they have the correct kind of, I don't know if algorithm is the right word for it, but like with the current relationships on Mercedes right now, like the number 2 driver is learning from the best in the world. So he's going to be learning. And then when he's willing to like step down, he's going to step up, and then we'll train kind of the person that comes in after him. That's kind of like I think a perfect setup.
Yeah,
And
like an
then
ideal combo.
McLaren's doing something similar where they had a rookie this year, and he was obviously going to be number 2. And he's learning from a really great driver. So sometimes they have like the really good setups.
There's
I
like
think
good
those two have, like,
opportunities in
really,
that.
yeah,
It sounds like, as long
because
as
it
it's
can
not
be this like
contentious.
mentor-mentee
Yeah.
relationship that I think works really well.
That's kind of cool, actually. And Jamie, you mentioned something that caught my attention because this goes into one of my other questions. They're both driving the same car, like same exact car.
Yep.
There
And-
will be rumors that they
They're-
won't, but they are.
In terms of the only thing that would be different between the two cars is some of them have like different setup preferences, meaning like, you know, where are the buttons on the steering wheel, or like if one of them likes balance in their car to be like a little bit more shifted like onto the nose versus the other one, they can change things like that, like the car balance and stuff, but like the parts of the car and the build of the car is the same.
And they're all the cars are different amongst the teams though.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, again, maybe this is like such a stupid question. I just have no conceptual understanding of like physics and dynamics, but how different are the cars from each other?
Yeah. So I don't really understand the aerodynamic element of it either. But in terms of like the cars' differences from each other, it's all these like super professional scientists will work for a full year, if not more, on how they make their car within the regulations the fastest it possibly can be. And a lot of that goes from like the floor of the car is a huge thing, and how they like organize that. And like, yeah, just like the setup of the nose, that front piece, the sides of the car, and all of that is developed within one team. And then that information is proprietary, I believe, for the year. So they do not share that information while that car is being used. And then at the end of that year, certain elements of that become public and other teams can buy it.
Ooh.
Meaning, there's been years where like teams will show up with their cars for the year and people will be like, that car looks exactly the same as this other team's car from last year, because they just bought all the information they could about what the car was.
Fair enough, honestly. Use your resources. Has anyone come out with like some like crazy, I don't know, like new science that like rocks the F1 car industry? Like what new changes can they really
In the
Again,
past,
it's
they've
just a
done some
car.
crazy things like years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
There was like an episode where
Regulations
Jamie and I
are
have,
so strict now that it's like,
yeah, it's tough to really play around with it. But there was an F1 car that had like 4 back wheels, like it had like 2 on each side, and then like the front wheel. It was crazy looking. They've tried a bunch of different things, specifically with the side pods.
Yeah.
Like the things on the side of the car that like jut out. But I don't think that they have been able to do anything.
Yeah,
Regulations are really tough, and they'll randomly check after races. That was like a big thing this past year.
yeah, like there
check
have been
everything.
things that have been determined to be not allowed. Like at one point, Mercedes had this setting on their car that would push the wheel forward of the car to like make it more stable, essentially. So like the driver's hands extend, and then the wheel, something was happening with the steering wheel that was making the car more stable.
Wild.
And once other teams noticed that, they like reported it, and it was determined that it wasn't allowed. And then there's obviously like the innovations that I guess we don't hear about. Like the Red Bull car this year was so much faster than everybody else's. So like lots of work clearly went into that. I have no idea though how. I don't.
Well, then Jamie, remember, didn't Ferrari have like, they deemed it illegal later on, but like a fan?
Yeah, that was an engine.
That was like their engine had like
In 2019, Ferrari did have an illegal car, and I think we should bring it back because that year actually went pretty well.
They're so fast.
Yeah.
They're such a fast car.
Has anyone like ever sabotaged somebody else's car?
Not to my knowledge. But
Someone else's car,
there.
someone else's race. Yeah.
Ooh.
There's
Oh, because I suppose you could totally sabotage somebody if you wanted to.
Yeah.
They've done it. The one that I know of, I think the most are like really during qualifying, right? Or am I?
Yeah. I mean, there can be tons of different ones. Like Fernando Alonso sabotaged Lewis Hamilton's qualifying once by just like he came in to get his tires changed and then just sat there and Lewis was behind him waiting and then all the time ran out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, these boys are petty, dude. They're petty.
Fernando Alonso is just always at the scene of the crime. Or there's like back in the day, this really doesn't happen anymore. But like Michael Schumacher once or twice has may or may not have crashed people out on purpose. Like stuff like that, but I don't think especially nowadays, I don't think you could get to an opposing teammate's car like that.
Yeah, the security's so tight.
secured.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of sounds like a fun like, undercover mission I'd like to be called in for. Like scout out. I don't know. That should be a movie. Ugh, again.
It's like could
someone
be
write
like
that down.
Ocean's 8. Yeah, someone write that down.
Get us.
I need a pen and a paper.
Yeah. I'm just shelling out ideas today.
I'm full of them. So I feel like this is like a good summary question for both of you to answer. Is it the driver or is it the car?
Do you want to start, Jack? Give your
do you think you'll have a different opinion than me? Do I have to pick one?
I mean, I know my opinion.
My opinion is it's both.
No, you can't have both. You can't have both.
My opinion is it's both.
It really
you need
is
a good driver. It really is because like I just my immediate thought is like to Alex Albon, who love. Nina, you'd love him. We're gonna make her a Williams girl. Who is a phenomenal driver, has great instincts, but the car is just not fast enough. That's like my immediate thought is you need both. And I guess if I had to choose, I would say car. Yeah, I think.
But you really need both.
You need somebody with the correct instincts, somebody who knows tire management to make, and like, again, the whole strategy aspect of it. You need like a seasoned driver.
Yeah. And you need it all to kind of like come together. Like you need the car to be a well-built car, a very fast car, but it also needs to work with the driver because everyone has different preferences and different driving styles. But yeah, so like another example of like, it needs to be both is like the spread between Max and Checo this season, which we have brought up several times, but like that car, they're in the same car, but Max was basically more or less wiping the floor with him. But on the other hand, like if you put all of those drivers in the exact same car, I'd say there's maybe like half a second, maybe a little bit more between them on a lap time.
Yeah.
Like
it would be, I think it would be close.
Well, it's like really interesting. Like going back to how is this a sport? I feel like it's probably one of the few sports where the equipment really does make a huge difference. Like if you like, I think growing up, I played soccer and my dad was always like, it's not about the ball, it's about the player or whatever. I feel like there's very few sports where the equipment is like a major key. Like it's not just about your talent sometimes. Like maybe golf. I'm sure there's others too where like certain equipment could like make or break you, but it's really interesting that this is probably one of the few sports where if your car is not fast enough, you simply are not going to win that race. Oh my God.
Honey also agrees. No, I think that's really very well put. I think that's very true.
It's wild too. I think about how difficult and frustrating that can be, that like you got to Formula One because you are the best, one of the best in the world. And then you just, hello. For those of us that listen and don't watch us, today is a great day to watch us on YouTube rather than just listening because we have cat cameos.
Jesus. You should see, like, this is why I work from the office almost exclusively, because this happens constantly. Constantly.
But what was I? Yeah, like you can.
Sorry.
I forget what I was saying. It wasn't really that. It clearly wasn't life changing.
This is groundbreaking.
It could have been. It really could have been. And Honey just stole the show, which is like her favorite thing to do. But essentially, the bottom line is, well, I think you were saying something to the effect of like, it could be really frustrating that you could work
Yes.
so hard and your car or your team or your funding just
Mhm.
might not get you there.
And they've
then
tried to change
people
that a
want-
little bit with, like, there is a cost cap in place about how much each team can spend throughout a season or a year. I don't think it's helped all that much, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think
I don't know if
it'll
it's
take a
too
while.
early. Yeah,
Yeah,
if it,
to
if it will
tell.
just take a while to really put itself into effect. I don't know if it's either one, but I would like to see. I'd like to see them all race in the same car, just to like kind of put
Just for
things to
fun.
rest.
I just want to know.
because some
Hunger Games style.
driver-
I don't know.
yes.
Throw them out there. See who makes it.
Some driver fans are real annoying about how good they think their person is, but they're like, if they had so and so's car, they'd wipe the floor, and it's like, no, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
Be for
I
real.
would like a once and
So
for
for real.
all.
Yeah.
Let's just put this all to rest and see who
Yeah.
really is the best in equal machinery.
Yeah, I think that would be so interesting.
And like the difference between those machine cars, the funding. The only other thing I've really seen about F1 is that there's just like a lot of money surrounding the entire sport. Where does that come from? Is it just like rich families who are like super invested in fostering like other rich people to drive rich, expensive cars? Like what?
It's so it's like
yeah.
There is some of that, like in terms of like the teams, there's a lot of like brands and sponsorships and stuff like that. But for like a driver to come up through the ranks, like one season in Formula 2, because you're in Formula 1, you're like paid to drive, you're a professional driver. But in Formula 2, you have to put your season on, like you pay for it. And it's like $3 million.
Oh my God.
So either you come from a very wealthy background and you pay that yourself, or you get sponsors who will pay that for you.
Can you conceptually imagine 3 million? Like,
could you imagine your kid is like, hey, I want to do
that money is just so intangible to me. The idea of
like, could you imagine like your kid's like, hey, I want to do car racing, and then all of a sudden you're dropping millions.
Pick a different sport.
That's like
Tennis.
houses. That's bigger than people's houses. Like,
and it's a year. That's 1 year.
it's just for a year.
How what's like the deterioration rate? Like how many people are trying to be F1 drivers versus like the 20 that make it per year?
Oh, I don't
Is
know.
it like thousands of people want to do this, or is it like?
I think a lot of people want to do it because they do have. There's a ton of different ones that you can be a part of. I just don't know.
Well, you start when you're like pretty young.
Yeah.
I think we should try.
Out of the three of us, who's winning a race?
I have no interest in getting in that car. I think
I'll do it. I will do it.
I would do it.
I don't think
I
I'm
would
gonna
pass out, to be honest.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like I don't have like a lot of willpower or general power.
I am just like horrifically risk averse, so I think I'd like get up to the first turn and be like, I don't think I can do this.
I'm hitting the brakes. Like
I need to do a couple laps, and then maybe I could take a turn at like 50 miles an hour. Maybe. I don't even know if I could do that.
Yeah, because like honestly, now I'm thinking about it. I remember during driver's ed when I was like 16 or 15, they made us do this thing where you like went full speed as like fast as you could across this parking lot, and then there was a cone, and at the last second you had to like whip your car sideways to like avoid hitting the cone. I freaking failed that every single time. I was never able to successfully complete that task. It's a miracle I got my license. But yeah, no, I couldn't do that.
I don't know.
They didn't have to do that.
That
We didn't have to do that. That sounds.
also, in the years of
Did
having
you-
my driver's license, never ran into a situation where I needed that skill.
No,
Or
I don't
did you
know.
take lessons through like GTA or Fast and
Grand
Furious?
Theft Auto. It was actually through my high school. And now that I think about it, I don't know that the driver's ed teacher was ever completely sober. Not to like start a conspiracy theory or like ruin someone's
We
life.
love conspiracy theories on this podcast.
Okay.
We're big fans.
My driver's ed teacher was a drunk. I'll say it. But
No,
I did
no,
try and I
couldn't
failed
do
many
that.
times. So
That would explain that exercise because, like, what person in their right mind would be like, every kid needs to know how to
he was
floor it?
probably absolutely geeking. He was like, I wonder what I could like make these kids try to do. Like, we're in an empty parking lot. He's just got like a bottle of vodka,
Yeah.
and
Let's
we're just
wing
running
Oh my
full
God.
speed through the parking lot at a traffic cone, knowing pretty
You
well
tell
that
these
we'll be
kids to
fine.
do anything. He's like bragging to the other teachers. He's like, these kids are crazy. They'll do
She
anything
drove
without
full
question."
speed. She went 75 miles an hour. He's going back and telling stories. And
Oh
the
my
worst part
God.
was we did it in pairs, so there's like someone in the back seat too. So you've got like my
You're
friend
responsible
behind
for
me.
multiple people's lives.
Yeah, and I'm doing some I'm I don't know, crazy donuts in the parking lot. He's making us like absolutely push ourselves to the limit. I did cry, to be honest. But
I would too.
cry.
I do
That's
cry
so
often.
stressful.
All I did in driver's ed was like learn how to parallel park. Like I didn't.
Yeah, and I thought that was stressful. I
was
barely
hard.
can do that.
that was hard.
No,
I'm like
there was one
50-50.
where like our dad our driver's ed didn't do it. Maybe it's because we learned in the spring, but our dad would take us out during like after one snowstorm when we first got our license and make us drive really fast and slam on the brakes so we knew
He never
how
made me do
to-
that.
Oh, he made me do that. Are you
He never made
serious?
me do that.
Okay, Dad, I know he's listening. You traumatized me with that. But now
Honestly,
I
it's
know
probably for
now
the
how to
best.
brake and like
Mhm.
it's a good thing to know.
Aren't you supposed to
because-
not brake on ice?
Well, it was like it's so to know that you'll
You're not
still
supposed to
move,
slam on the
essentially. You're not
brakes,
supposed
yeah.
like you're supposed to like kind of pump
But
your
you're just
brakes.
feeling that sensation of like
So
you're
he's
still
like, this
gonna
is
keep
why, you
moving
know,
forward.
yeah. So don't slam on your brakes. Like this is the correct way to do it. So I
Yes.
learned a lot, but
Yeah.
it was scary.
I did end up in somebody's front yard from that exact situation.
Did
So,
you? Wait, for real? Are
I-
you joking?
No, I'm so serious. Like I was on the ice, and again, he never taught us how to drive in the snow. My driver's ed teacher. So I didn't know that you weren't supposed to brake. So I'm slamming on the brakes. My car is like whirling in someone's front yard. It was a particularly icy winter, but yeah, I survived. So here we are.
Here you are.
Here we
Here
are.
I am. I've only been hit by one bus in my life. So I think my credentials for being an F1 driver are my driver's ed teacher was drunk. I don't know how to drive in the cold, and I've only gotten hit by one bus in my life. So
Someone get Susie Wolf on the phone. We got the next F1 Academy driver right here.
and
I
got-
think you can expect your next Formula One contract in the mail any day.
Yeah,
I'm actually
like
like waiting.
Hogwarts. It's gonna come.
I was gonna say it's like Hogwarts. Honey, my co-pilot.
yeah.
A term.
would hate
if
it,
you
dude.
if you are someone looking to sign Nina to be your driver for the next season, you just have to keep in mind that that Honey will be joining.
Yes. I'm kind of
Honey's a part of
imagining
the
like a little
contract.
bit of like a kid's book cartoon, like a girl becomes an F1 driver and her co-pilot is a little orange cat. Someone write this down. Again.
Write it down.
Nina, you are
everybody.
coming up with ideas left and right tonight.
This never happens, I'll be honest.
Not
The
that
creative
not
juices
just
are
any in
flowing.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like laser focused on that turkey sandwich right now. Like there is drool coming out, so this is good.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Well,
And
gosh.
on that note,
Thanks for putting up with my cat. I'm so sorry if she distracted anybody multiple
no,
times.
we love it.
We love it.
We love her.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining, Nina. Thank you for bringing
thank
the
you.
greatest questions, the hard-hitting questions.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure they were hard hitting, but they were questions. So thanks for
They were
answering
questions.
them.
And they were necessary. We get those all the time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was definitely you're not alone in any of those questions.
It makes me feel like maybe I could watch F1 and enjoy it. So
Yes.
that's
Absolutely.
you guys
We're
have-
gonna do
Oh my god, she took the turkey sandwich.
No. No. No.
I am the worst. I am the worst guest of all time. Oh my god.
Wow.
I'm crying. I'm actually.
I'm appalled. I'm appalled. No, I'm
Oh
crying
my
too.
God.
I should leave. I'll be
Oh
honest.
my god.
Okay, on that note, Nina, thank you for coming.
You need that.
You're so welcome, guys.
Wow.
We loved having you on. We will have
Oh,
you on
yes.
again soon to discuss your career in F1.
Yes.
Mhm.
Please keep us updated. We will be tagging Nina in all of our social videos. I wish Honey had an account right now, which we could plug, but
She's often featured on my TikTok, so
yeah.
you can
If you're a
see
book
videos of her
reader,
there.
go follow Nina on TikTok. I think it's at Nina Swanson, right? She's at Nina
I think
Swanson.
I changed it recently to Nina Cries a Lot because I do cry often. But I'll confirm that later.
Okay. We'll just be on the
We'll
lookout.
tag
We'll
her.
tag her. We'll tag
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Nina. And yes, we'll see you on socials this week, everybody. And see you back on the podcast next week. Love you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.